method that one uses to wake up to reality is becoming aware of what that is. It's an intuition that who we are is infinite and eternal. We recognize it because it's true, and it stirs us in the depths of our being, and we start to become aware of it. So that's the first step. It's like we suspect that it's true, and we follow it. Just like we're walking down a street in a city, and we smell a fragrance on the wind of some incredible banquet, and we follow it. It's like we know it. We follow it. But it's not a memory, and it's not a thought. We're being drawn to reality itself. It is like a banquet, figuratively speaking. So we get that first whiff of it, and we follow it. That's the main method. It can take different forms. The main three are inquiry, prayer, and meditation. Inquiry is writing down what you think, or at least reflecting on what you think, and asking questions about it. The most famous forms of this method are Ramana Maharshi's method to ask, "Who am I?" That's called self-inquiry. The idea is if we inquire, "Who am I?" in this way that's persistent, like we're trying to find the truth of it. It's like trying to find that fragrance, find the source of it, find the banquet itself. Who am I? You'll notice that when you ask who you are, there'll be a thought, feeling, or sensation, or it could be an emotion, something in the body that we assume to be ourselves. But when we get really quiet and look at it, we'll realize that the thoughts that we believe aren't ultimately true. Sometimes they're not even relatively true. And we start to let go of those a little bit. We notice that there may be an emotional sensation that we attribute to self. Like the thought could be, "I'm worthless." If someone has the thought, "I'm worthless," and believes it, and the I of "I'm worthless" refers to a sense of self, it's going to have an emotion associated with it, which is perhaps depression, feelings of inferiority, very negative ideas and feelings. When we ask, "Who am I?" sufficiently, and something like that comes up, that negative sense, we could ask the question, to whom does that arise? There is always, in a sense, someone to whom that thought, feeling, or sensation arises. So let's say you're having a bad day, and you're just feeling bad, and you're thinking, "I'm no good," or something like that. And we have that feeling of unworthiness, perhaps in our chest, somewhere in the body, and we just, out of habit, and really out of ignorance, meaning we just don't know any better, it's very innocent, we assume that that thought and feeling and sensation of worthlessness is who we are, and we're stuck with it. There is always someone to whom a thought, feeling, or sensation arises. It's just when you get down to the root of it, the realization is that who we are is consciousness itself, and that any object that arises within the field of consciousness isn't who you are, because there's always someone to whom it arises. In other words, there's always a bigger container. It's not finite. It's not discrete. I could say it's a field of awareness. That's not a bad way to look at it. It's just that it's infinite. And when we try to understand that mentally, we can't. We can't really comprehend what that is mentally. What we can do is see the finite objects that arise within us that we assume to be who we are, and notice that when we ask the question, "Who am I?" and that comes up, that when we ask, "To whom does that arise?" there's something greater to which it arises. Consciousness itself doesn't change. It is merely aware. The objects that we contemplate or that we assume are who we are, they change. And they change throughout the day. They change. We could even just contemplate that, who am I? I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a friend. Those things may be true, but they're not always true. And they come and go, they change. All of those relations are part of what I'd call relative truth. They have a relative kind of truth. It's a temporary, impermanent kind of truth, like waves on the ocean. Consciousness itself is like the ocean itself. It's infinite. It sustains all of that. The second method that we can use to wake up, I would call prayer. Usually we think of prayer as conventionally asking some deity for a special favor. That's not what it is. Basically, what happens is we suffer from something. So it's either something that we don't have and we want it, or we do have it and we don't want it. So desire and aversion. That's the second noble truth of Buddhism. That's what causes suffering, is wanting what we don't have and not wanting what we do have. Why is that? Because if we do have it, then the only sane response is to want it because it is. I don't want to be sitting here, I am sitting here. So there's a dimension of being that comes into it. I am this now. And when I imagine myself to be a separate and separative entity wanting, mentally projecting something and wanting it, it sets up a conflict and I suffer from that. And it doesn't stop until I stop doing that. So I'm suffering from something, maybe a lack or a limitation or some kind of condition. True prayer would be what I call knowing the truth, which is that, first of all, whatever condition I may be suffering from is temporary. There's an ancient saying of this too shall pass. Whatever it is that I'm saying shall pass is whatever it is that I'm experiencing. That's guaranteed. Even this very universe will burn out one day. All forms are temporary. And it's wise to acknowledge that and to live that way. If I'm suffering from some lack or limitation, if I can remember that this too shall pass, it helps me because I don't have to cling to the fear of its continuance. There's a not knowing to that, a wisdom. This is a very pedestrian sort of problem, but it's one that many of us might face. Let's say my TV breaks. I want to watch my favorite program on TV and my TV malfunctions. It won't turn on or it's broken and I don't have the ability to repair it. In that moment, we start with this idea that a broken TV is a bad thing. There's a judgment built into it that it's bad or it's wrong or it shouldn't be happening. The fact is that it is happening. It is reality in that moment. And paradoxically, when I have the thought, oh, this is terrible, and I feel the feeling of loss or regret or whatever it is that we experience, if I can become aware in that moment that what is should be what it is because it is, in that moment, that's all that is. If I'm sitting here, it's because I'm sitting here. There's nothing else happening. This is the most rock bottom truth I can possibly contemplate, which is that what is. Whatever is appearing as that in that moment is what should be appearing because it's appearing in that moment. Everything else is imaginary. I should be somewhere else. I wish this was different. It's not. So we recognize that the mind generates all these thoughts about how things should be different. Prayer is basically becoming aware of the suffering that we experience when we attach to these thoughts that things should be different, and then letting them go. People talk about praying to God. Well, God is not a bearded dude on a throne somewhere, not some paternal and often wrathful deity that you see in the Old Testament in different places. God is truth itself. God is reality. What else is there? There is nothing else. If God is going to be real to us, then reality must be that. In what I would call true prayer, there's an understanding that reality is infinite and that it already is. It is the very truth of our experience, whether we realize it or not. So if we're suffering from some false idea, it doesn't feel very blissful. It doesn't feel very free. We feel bound. We feel hindered. We feel at a loss, perhaps. The teaching is that those are appearances. And by appearances, I mean they appear and then they disappear. So they're temporary. Again, this too shall pass. Reality sustains me because it's real. Reality is the only truth. It's the only source of solutions to our practical problems. It doesn't make sense to cling to a phantom as if it were real. So whatever I'm experiencing, any kind of hardship, setback, difficulty, the realization, the understanding is that to the degree that I'm caught up in that nightmare of separation, I'm in a sense causing the very pain that I'm trying to get rid of. I'm believing in things that aren't real. I've heard it said that the word fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real or assumed real. We learn to turn to a deeper source of contentment. It's not that it takes care of our problems exactly, it's that we stop causing those problems because we're turning to truth. It's like we're living in a world that has 2 plus 2 equals 7 or something as its basic guideline, and we let go of that and return to 2 plus 2 equals 4. It sets things right because it's truth itself. Truth is, and there's no conflict in it because it's one truth, one reality, one being. I was taught when I was growing up that what we called God, which is just a word that means truth itself, that God would solve our problems if we would but let Him. In Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, the first step of overcoming an addiction is realizing that one is powerless over the addiction. You have to admit it. You have to admit, I'm powerless over this. All that means is the self that I'm attaching to that's false, the person that I assume myself to be, including the mental state and all of that, attachments, resentments, usually fears, and all of that, isn't powerful. And it's not powerful because it's not real. It's a presumed self, and we think, I can handle it. But the I that we think can handle it refers to something that's false. It's cobbled together out of phantoms and nonsense, and it's scary, it's lonely, and it's incapable of solving that particular problem. So we surrender to a higher power. That's the idea in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've seen that help people. We let go of the false, and then the real becomes apparent to us. We have to really surrender and really let go, and it takes a lot of trust. So in AA, you have to trust that there are those who have gone before you who have become sober and happy, is the idea. They no longer have the desire to drink, and their companionship and guidance can help. What I'm talking about when I talk about awakening is similar, except that it's overcoming an addiction to being a separate person entirely. An addiction being a compulsive attachment. Compulsive meaning we can't stop doing it. We can't not do it. So waking up is really about letting go of falsehood. We don't create truth. We are it, and when we stop clinging to a false identity, that fundamental reality starts to become more apparent. When it's more apparent to us, it's kind of like having the lights turned up in a room so we can see what to do. So prayer, when we let go of those ideas and desires, again, they're desires that things should be different, which is completely false. Why? Because they are what they are, whether we like it or not. It's the fighting with it, it's the thinking it should be different that causes the problem, not the thing itself. So we surrender to the reality that what is. And it's like a light starts to dawn. That's really just consciousness. It starts to get a little brighter, and then we just see what to do. So would I say that God solves our problems? Sure. If you want to put it that way, why not? I don't care, just do it. Consciousness solves our problems because it is. It is the eternal and unchanging. And it's brilliant. It's a letting go of the known. It's very challenging for most people. We struggle, and then we think, oh, I want to be free of this pain. I want to be free of this struggle. It's like, all right, well, you have to let go of yourself. It's like, well, I don't know about that. Like it or not, you are the source of your suffering. Now, can you hear that without judging it? You're not a bad person. You're not bad because of it. It's just a state of what the Buddhists call ignorance. And ignorance is just not knowing. Just not knowing. It's really innocent. We just don't know any better. So I'm not praying for something to go away. I'm praying to be different, to let go of the false identity that's causing my problems. And when I do that, I start to wake up a little bit to who I actually am, and then I know what to do. Then things change. The third method is meditation. I've talked about it a lot. Very simply put, meditation is noticing thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. That's basically it. It's a practice. What we start to realize is everything that we put our attention on is a form of judgment. And that it's something we're doing, that the mind is doing. It's like it comes out of our brain and starts creating these forms, and then, well, it should be this or it shouldn't be that, or planning for the future or the past. And it's all based on this lie that who we are is a conditional form of self that comes and goes and is confused and lost and ignorant and starts wars, flails about for a while and then dies. That sounds pretty sad, doesn't it? All of what I just said is an object within awareness. It's a thought. We could actually just write it down. Everything I just said, you could write it on a sheet of paper and then just read it. To whom does that arise? When we're meditating, we're just being aware of the script going by. And when we notice it without judgment, it loses power. Because if we really practice that non-judgmental part, a judgment is basically saying that something shouldn't be what it is. Things are what they are because they are. It's really simple. When we notice without judgment, we start to become aware of the judgments that come in. We notice those. When those relax, the entities or problems, the objects, people, places, things, situations, complications, irritations, all of it, we notice it without judgment and it starts to dissolve because it's all mentally generated. So if the mind is a form of judgment, meaning it's like seeing a map of a city and assuming that the map is the city, when it's really just something that's abstract, that's created on a piece of paper or on a screen that refers to an actual thing. We live in the description. We live in the make-believe. It's a judgment because it's not it, any more than a picture of food on a menu is the food itself. So we learn to notice that, and it starts to let go. We become happier, we become freer, and at some point we wake up to the deathless. The only thing that is born and dies are these conditional forms, and it's caused by an attachment to self. We let that go, we wake up, and we're free. Inquiry, prayer, and meditation are all forms of the same thing, which is merely becoming aware of reality. It's interesting because we become aware of falsehood. You could say, what do you mean becoming aware of falsehood? I thought you said it was truth. Becoming aware of the false as false is truth. If I realize that 2 + 2 = 5 as a statement that's running my life, perhaps, like I have a carpenter that's building my new dream home, and he believes that there's 13 inches in a foot or something. Why does my house keep falling down? What's the problem? I realize the falsehood of that. I let go of it, and then I don't have to suffer that anymore. So become aware of truth. That's the process. It's just there's different takes on it. We can ask questions about it, inquiry. We can pray about it, which in a sense is turning it over to a higher power. We let go of our falsehoods and turn to truth itself. Or we just witness our thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they pass by and notice them without judgment. All, all three of those are really the same, processed from different angles, different ways of doing it. Waking up means becoming curious about your own condition and learning what's true about it. And this is really important. We suffer from false ideas. Waking up does not mean that we become aware of the falsity of those ideas and that what we wake up to are new ideas that are true. The basic teaching is that no thought can be ultimately true. No idea can be ultimately true. No ideology, no framework for humanity. I've seen that where people think, I woke up, I learned that all this stuff was false, and like I'm there. And then they'll give you a litany of new things that they believe. It's nothing like that, because those new beliefs will fail as well. They don't capture the real. They can't. They're guidelines at best. All the systems of government we have, all the systems of philosophy we have, psychology and all of that, they're approximations. And we're trying to learn which ones work better to provide a framework for living in a certain relative sense, but they're not the same as absolute truth. Absolute truth is unknowable. We are that. We are the light of awareness right now. We wake up to that, and none of that stuff matters.